Hey there. Really appreciate you tuning in. And if you choose to hit that subscribe button, even better. Now, let's begin. It all unraveled on a silent night. There were no alarms, no chaos, just a quiet ripple beneath the surface. At 1:47 in the morning, Blake Anderson's phone buzzed gently on the wooden nightstand beside his bed in Boston. Half asleep, he figured it was just another early notification from work. Maybe global market noise or a stray client message. But when he glanced at the screen, his heart paused. It was Jenna, his wife. She was supposed to be up in Vermont with her cousin Nicole, a relaxing weekend getaway, girls only, no drama, no red flags, just a standard trip. He swiped the phone open. One image loaded. Jenna, in a short white dress, was standing beside Gavin Brooks, Blake's college roommate and longtime best friend. Behind them loomed a gaudy Las Vegas chapel glowing with cheap neon. Clutched in Jenna's hands, a marriage license. The caption read, "Just tied the knot with Gavin Surprise. Thanks for the laughs. Enjoy your sad little existence, XO." Blake didn't yell, didn't panic. He simply stared at the screen. Then, curiously, he smiled. Not out of happiness, but from clarity. He didn't feel crushed. He felt awake, as if someone had opened his eyes after years underwater. He rose from bed, walked to the kitchen, and poured himself a tall glass of icy water. The air outside his window felt surprisingly clean. Then he turned on his laptop. Blake wasn't new to meticulous thinking. As a high-level financial analyst at one of Boston's elite investment firms, his world ran on systems and formulas. This question mark. This was just another variable. In under an hour, Jenna's access to all joint financial accounts vanished. He shifted $82,000, his portion of their savings, into a secure personal account. What remained? $21.12, her only monetary input that month, courtesy of her boutique PR gig. Next up, security overhaul. By 4:30 a.m., a tired locksmith named Derek was swapping out every lock, reprogramming door codes, and reinforcing entry points throughout the brownstone Blake had purchased long before the marriage. Every step was documented: screenshots, timestamps, transaction logs, surveillance clips. Jenna's access to everything, cloud storage, subscriptions, email, was revoked. By 5:55 a.m., Blake's entire life had been methodically reset. As the sun rose, he showered, shaved, dressed in a crisp slate suit, and headed to work. To the world, it was just another Friday. To Blake, it marked the beginning of something entirely new. He moved through the day with surgical focus. Meetings, reports, forecast models, every task executed flawlessly. Around mid-afternoon, his boss, Meredith Clark, dropped by. "That Henderson report," she said, nodding, "seriously sharp. You're as reliable as ever, Blake." He offered a polite smile. "Consistency's underrated," he replied. Jenna had once scribbled something about that in her journal, as if being steady was somehow a character flaw. By 6:15 that evening, Blake was home, cooking dinner. Not just any dinner, Jenna's favorite: garlic-buttered salmon, wild asparagus, creamy lemon risotto. He even uncorked her favorite Chardonnay, the one she used to say was sunlight in a bottle. But it wasn't longing that drove him, it was finality. A meal served with a side of dark humor. He set the table, candle lit, wine poured, ate alone. The background noise? Gordon Ramsay barking at culinary failures on TV. Saturday, 11:02 a.m. A violent knock shook the front door. He wasn't surprised. Blake stood and answered calmly. Jenna stood outside, her once white dress now crumpled, eyes red and puffy. Mascara streaks trailing down her cheeks. Her hair looked like it hadn't seen a brush in days. She tugged at the doorknob. "Why doesn't my key work?" she snapped. Blake didn't flinch. "You married Gavin, in Vegas, remember?" "This isn't a joke, Blake. Should we talk about the Bellagio buffet next?" She froze. "Wait, how do you—" He stepped aside and waved her in. "Come on." Her heels echoed as she stormed across the wood floor. "You really changed the locks?" "I did." "You're out of your mind." "No," he said evenly. "I've just stopped pretending." In the kitchen, she folded her arms. "I was drunk. It was stupid. None of it was real." Blake poured iced tea, added lemon, sipped. "You posed for the picture, signed the license, sent it to me. That's not a slip-up, that's intent." "It doesn't mean anything, it's just a dumb piece of paper." "Number legally, it's bigamy." She blinked. Words failed her. "You lied about where you were, married my best friend, mocked me in the caption. Remember calling my life pathetic?" Tears welled up. "I was hurting. You never have time. You're always at work. Gavin actually listens." He took another sip. "Well, then I hope he hears this. You've clearly made your choice." Her voice broke. "That's it? You're not even going to fight for us?" "I already did. Every day you were lying, I was still showing up, and this," he gestured around, "this is what you gave me." The silence between them grew thick. "I made a mistake," she whispered. Blake reached for the water pitcher, and without hesitation, he emptied it over her head. She shrieked, stunned as the cold water soaked her dress and puddled on the floor. "You maniac!" she cried. "That's assault!" "No," he said, calm as ever. "That's hydration. You looked like you needed it." "I'm calling the cops." "I'll be right here." 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Two officers stood on the porch, one older, stocky, unimpressed, the other younger, still optimistic, Ramirez and Dillard. Jenna stood behind them, drenched and draped in a dish towel. Her voice trembled. "He attacked me. He locked me out. I live here and he threw me out." Officer Ramirez turned toward the house, where Blake stood behind the screen holding a thick folder. "Sir," he said, "can we hear your side?" Blake stepped outside and handed him the file. "These are photos of my wife marrying another man yesterday in Las Vegas," he said. "That's their certificate, time-stamped. Here's the message she sent me. The property is legally mine, purchased before marriage, and this," he tapped the final page, "is our prenup." Ramirez flipped through the documents, raised an eyebrow. "Miss Jenkins," he said, holding up the photo, "this you?" She hesitated. I was drunk. It wasn't serious." "Did you send this message?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Yes." Officer Dillard turned to Blake. "Did you, pour water on her?" Blake looked him in the eye. "Yes. After she tried to enter without permission, she looked overheated." Ramirez's face twitched, almost a smile, but he held it in. "Ma'am, this seems to be a civil matter. If you're looking to dispute anything, it needs to go through family court," the officer said, maintaining a calm demeanor. Jenna raised her voice. "He dumped water on me." Unshaken, the officer replied, "While you were inside a home you no longer have a legal claim to, and while you're still legally married to someone else." "This is ridiculous," Dillard said, his voice level. "You're just going to let him walk away?" Ramirez stepped in, speaking gently. "You entered into a new marriage while your previous one was still valid. That's not exactly routine. You should consult a lawyer. This is beyond our authority." With that, the officers departed. Jenna remained in the driveway, dripping wet, seething, and utterly lost for words. Inside, Blake refilled his glass of sweet tea and tossed a load into the washing machine. The peace didn't last. Precisely at 2:40 p.m., round 2 began. Jenna returned, but this time she brought backup: her mother Cynthia, her cousin Nicole, and of course, Gavin Brooks. Cynthia, wrapped in an expensive coat far too thick for the weather, marched up the porch like a general taking the field. "This is abuse," she shouted. "You can't just evict a wife from her own home." Blake opened the door, calm and unbothered. "Cynthia, by law, this isn't her home anymore. As a former paralegal, I thought you'd understand that," she sneered. "You arrogant parasite." Blake tilted his head slightly. "Still punching above your legal weight, I see." Nicole stepped in quickly. "Blake, let's not escalate. It's messy, I get it. Jenna didn't intend for this to go so far. She bought a wedding dress, flew to Vegas, signed a marriage certificate, and even sent you a photo," Blake said, voice flat. "Which of those steps was an accident?" Gavin finally spoke, his tone quiet. It got out of hand. I never meant— Blake's eyes sharpened. You ate dinner in my house. You toasted our wedding. Don't pretend you were clueless. I swear it was a mistake, Gavin murmured. I believe that, Blake replied coldly, because you both look like regret made flesh. What a great way to start a honeymoon. I'm entitled to 50%, Jenna said, her voice cracking. Massachusetts is a community property state. Blake gave a crooked smile. Prenuptial agreement, signed, sealed, and notarized. You said it was romantic, remember? Cynthia snapped. We've hired an attorney. No, Blake replied. You hired Devin, the guy who handles dog bites and minor car wrecks. Then, turning to Nicole, I'm working with Harrison Lee. He sues billion-dollar funds for sport, and he wins. Nicole quietly stepped back. Gavin looked like he wished he could disappear. Can I just get my things? Jenna asked, subdued. They're in the garage, Blake said. Boxed, labeled, wrapped in bubble wrap. I even sorted your scarves by season and color. Jenna stared at him, unsure whether the insult was the eviction or the unsettling organization. You can't just throw me away, she whispered. I didn't, Blake said softly. You walked out the moment you boarded that plane to Vegas. You just didn't notice. Sunday morning, the rumble of a moving truck broke the silence. From his upstairs window, coffee in hand, Blake watched as a U-Haul backed into the driveway. Jenna hopped out first, barking directions. Nicole and Gavin trudged behind her like court-ordered laborers. Jenna kept shouting. Gavin looked like a man crushed beneath the weight of his own mistakes. At the rental counter, Blake saw Jenna's card decline. She flailed her arms, frustrated. Gavin, defeated, pulled out his wallet to cover the charge. Things were already falling apart, but Blake had more to do. By Monday, he called Zach Foster, a college friend turned digital forensics expert. I need a full pull from Jenna's iCloud, Blake said. Deleted messages, DMS, everything. Zach paused. That's deep, man. I need the truth, Blake said flatly. All of it. I'll get it, just know you might not like what I find. I'm already living it. 2 days later, Blake received an email with an attachment titled Jenanitha Retrieved, 300 pages long. That night, in his study under the dim lamp's glow, he read every word like a pathologist examining fatal tissue. It wasn't mere cheating. It was warfare, deliberate and methodical. A message to Gavin. Blake's so predictable. I skim hundreds from the joint account. He never notices. To someone named Aiden. He works too much. I feel like a decorative house plant with a credit card. To Ryan. If I can push him hard enough to snap, I can get more alimony. Blake gripped the printouts tight. This wasn't heartbreak. It was sabotage, assembled one message at a time. Vegas wasn't the start. It was the crescendo. He didn't scream. He didn't weep. He printed the documents, filed them in black binders, dated and labeled. Then he called Mason Grant, the most ruthless divorce lawyer in Boston. You've got a bombshell, Mason said during their first meeting. Most of these cases settle. Yours? We can scorch the earth. Blake gave a single nod. Good. I want accountability, not revenge. The truth will take care of the damage. The next 2 weeks became a quiet war. Jenna made move after move. Blake saw them all coming. She had her father, Douglas Jenkins, call Blake's employer to say he was mentally unfit. Blake's manager, Meredith Clark, wasn't fooled. She married someone else, she said. Meanwhile, Blake's killing it here. We're done. Then Jenna attempted to break into the brownstone, again. At 2:12 a.m., security footage caught her trying to pry open the back door with a credit card. Blake reported it. This time, the police arrested her. Her mugshot landed in Boston Daily's Wild Weekend Arrests feature. Soon, her boutique PR clients started vanishing. By Friday, she was fired. Her unraveling had begun. But Blake wasn't finished. On December 14th, the day before the divorce hearing, his phone rang. Hello? Is this Blake Anderson? Speaking. This is Helen Brooks, Gavin's mother. Blake straightened. How can I help you? I think it's time to end this. Jenna's kind of staying with Gavin. This entire thing is exhausting. You're ruining her. Just let it go. Be the bigger person. Blake took a steady breath. Mrs. Brooks, Your son married my wife. Jenna deceived me, stole from me, humiliated me. I'm not looking for revenge. I want responsibility taken. Gavin helped set this fire." "You're exaggerating," she said. "No," Blake said calmly. "I'm being just." "I'm just being accurate," Blake said with cool detachment, ending the call early the next morning. He arrived at the courthouse dressed immaculately in a crisp navy suit, a matte black binder under his arm. Inside, Jenna was already seated beside her latest attorney, Brandon Holt, a youthful-looking lawyer whose fresh-faced appearance suggested student loans were still haunting him. Jenna appeared exhausted. Her clothing was understated, her makeup carefully applied in an effort to conceal the emotional erosion visible in her gaze. Blake didn't feel sorry for her. What he felt was clarity. The courtroom tensed as the clerk read aloud, "Case number 2025 FL 9342, Anderson versus Anderson, petition for dissolution of marriage." Judge Loretta Whitaker presided, an experienced, silver-haired figure whose eyes were as cutting as her demeanor. She adjusted her glasses and skimmed through the case documents. Blake stood next to his lawyer, Mason Grant, whose quiet intensity hinted he came prepared for battle. On the opposite side, Jenna fidgeted in her seat. Her young attorney already seemed lost, as if half his arguments had vanished from his memory before he'd even opened his mouth. "Mr. Holt," Judge Whitaker began, her tone brisk, "your client entered a legal marriage with a Mr. Gavin Brooks in Las Vegas on November 10th, while still legally wed to Mr. Anderson. Are you contesting this fact?" Brandon coughed lightly. "Your Honor, my client was in an emotionally vulnerable state. The marriage to Mr. Brooks was impulsive, made during a period of instability." "A period?" the judge interjected sharply. "She took wedding photos. She sent one to her husband with the caption, 'Thanks for being such a joke.' That's not emotional turmoil. That's deliberate action." Jenna's cheeks turned crimson. Now facing Mason, Judge Whitaker asked, "Mr. Grant?" "Yes, Your Honor. We've submitted Exhibits A through D, which include screenshots, digital communication logs, and financial records. We also provided a report from a digital forensics expert." He handed over a thick binder. "Among the materials," Mason continued, "are messages in which the respondent refers to my client as clueless, details withdrawals from joint accounts to fund extramarital dates, and discusses how to shape public opinion to portray herself as the wronged party." Judge Whitaker leafed through the evidence, her expression growing darker with each page. "Miss Jenkins, are these your messages?" Jenna's voice shook. "Yes, but not with—" "Did you take funds without Mr. Anderson's consent?" "I did." "And while still married, did you marry another man?" Tears brimmed in her eyes. "Yes." The judge leaned back in her chair, gaze fixed and unsparing. "In over 20 years of family law, I've seen cheating, deceit, even vindictiveness. But rarely have I seen such a premeditated betrayal, made worse by how thoroughly the betrayer documented her own actions." Jenna dabbed at her face with trembling fingers. "The court finds in favor of the petitioner," the judge declared. "The prenuptial agreement will be upheld. All shared assets are awarded to Mr. Anderson. In addition, due to financial misconduct and reputational harm, the respondent is ordered to pay $500 per month in alimony for 1 year. Brandon sprang to his feet. "Your Honor, that feels excessive." "Mr. Holt," she interrupted coldly, "consider this a learning experience. If the roles had been reversed, I would have tripled the support and held a press conference." Her gavel struck with finality. In the hallway outside, Jenna's mother, Cynthia, stepped in front of Blake. "You think this is justice? You destroyed her life." "No," Blake said evenly. "She did that all on her own. A coffee cup came flying, Nicole's doing, but it veered off course and hit Helen Brooks squarely. Helen screamed and lunged at Nicole as security rushed to separate them. Blake never looked back. He was already walking away. Already done. But Jenna wasn't. "Blake, please," she called, hurrying after him. "I don't have anywhere else to go. Nicole's place is infested. I've been applying for jobs. I swear I've tried. I lost everything." He stopped and turned to face her. "No, Jenna, you didn't lose anything. You handed it away." I know, she said, voice cracking. I was proud. I was selfish. God, I thought you were dull. But you weren't. You were steady. You were good to me. He looked at her, this woman he had once imagined forever with. She wasn't evil, just empty, a ghost of what she could have been. I'm sorry, she whispered. I believe that, Blake replied gently. But apologies can't put out fires after the house is ash. Half a year later, Blake sold the brownstone and moved into a modern condo overlooking the river. For the first time in ages, he decorated not for guests or image, but for himself. The glass decor and catalog-perfect furniture were gone. In their place were warm wood, gentle lighting, and a space that finally felt like peace. At a retirement party for a senior partner at his firm, he met Daniel Hartman, a high school guidance counselor with a wry smile, a calm presence, and twin daughters obsessed with science kits and strawberry ice cream. On their fourth date, Daniel leaned in and said, "You're not what I pictured from a finance guy." "Oh?" Blake asked. "You're not icy. You feel like someone who's walked through fire and made a map on the way out." Blake chuckled. "I once backed a disastrous investment." "Divorce?" "Worse, false hope." Daniel grinned. "Then someone else's loss is my win." One clear October morning, Blake's doorman buzzed. "Sir, there's a woman downstairs says she knows you." It was Jenna standing in the lobby. She looked thinner, older. Her hair was cropped simply, no makeup, no airs, just someone stripped down to the truth. "I'm not here to ask for anything," she said softly. "Just to say I'm sorry, for real this time." Blake nodded but said nothing. "I was awful," she continued. "I had it all, and I blew it. Gavin lasted 3 weeks. He ran off to Phoenix with a blackjack dealer. Now I live in a dump near a gas station, answer phones all day, eat canned soup, and take the bus everywhere." Still he remained quiet. "I heard you're seeing someone." "I am." "Are you happy?" He thought of Daniel's warm laugh, the twins' excited voices, dinners filled with ease and laughter instead of tension. "Yes," he said. Jenna gave a faint smile. "Good, you deserve to be." She turned, paused, and looked back. "Blake?" "Yeah? You weren't boring. You were reliable. I just didn't realize that's what I actually needed." "Be well, Jenna." She turned and blended into the crowd, fading into the consequences she'd shaped. Blake went back upstairs to the aroma of roasting vegetables and laughter drifting from the balcony, where Daniel and the twins were painting volcano models. His phone lit up. "Daniel, dinner in 10. The girls want to show you their science project." Blake smiled. No more vendettas, no lingering bitterness, only truth. He'd lost a marriage but found himself. He'd lost her but gained peace. And finally, he was living the life she never believed he was worthy of.